Welcome again to Bright Spots. I am Dr. Fred Douglas Smith Jr. I am a professor of public theology at Houston Graduate School of Theology. And I'm also director of what's called now the Center for Leadership in Public Theology. And we are so happy today to have Pastor Ricky Bell and Deacon Matkins with us today from Forest Lawn Baptist Church. And we want to find out about this church and what y'all doing. And just tell me something about yourselves. Let's go ahead and introduce yourselves, your church, and we'll just start a conversation.
Again, my name is Pastor Ricky Bell. I'm a native of Kilgore, Texas. Moved to Houston in 1965 as a young boy. As we moved to Houston, we arrived right across the street from Forest Lawn Baptist Church. My mother had looked for a church leaving Kilgore, and so there we were. So I grew up in the church as a young boy, baptized there, and later on became a preacher, or the Lord called me to preach, 1978, and preached my first sermon there at Forest Lawn, and later on I was ordained in March 84, and from there, 1993, I became pastor, Forest Lawn Baptist Church. So I've been serving there in that capacity now for 25 years.
Okay. Deacon?
My name is Lee Matkins. Been a member of Forest Lawn since 1980. I moved to Houston 50 years ago this year. And I joined Forest Lawn after I was transferred back in from Corpus Christi. I worked for Exxon and been there, like I said, for the past 38 years.
Okay. Great.
He's been my pastor at that time. He's done a good job, and we're proud of him.
Good job.
Right.
Okay, so what you so proud about, your pastor? What has he done so good?
Well, he's cared about people.
Okay.
That's the number one
That's
concern.
the one thing? Yeah.
Right. It's one thing, to get to preach a sermon, but it's another to care about your congregation.
I know that's the truth. Yeah.
And he has done that, especially during the time Harvey. This past year. He's seeked out resources to help our church, help our people, not only our church, but the community, and which I think he did an outstanding job, and with his leadership and with the Lord guiding us, we were able to do great things to help those who lost everything and some who didn't lose as much, but everything was lost, and we didn't have, thank God, no loss of life.
Amen.
So we're blessed in that regard.
So tell me, Brother Bell, Pastor Bell, about the great things that you've done there at Forest Lawn, especially about Harvey and the recovery work.
Well, in Harvey, we had a lot of people affected. Some was more affected than others. What we tried to do, help those first at our church. And after helping those at our church, we tried to see whatever else we could do within the community. And then there were some churches that collaborated. There were some churches who from out of town called in to see how they could assist us in providing food, water, clothing, and those type of things. And so we collaborated with some churches and some other community organizations, and we've had clothes drives where we've given away hundreds of clothes, and then we've had food drives where we was giving away food and supplies. So we've helped out in that particular way as it relates to the Harvey.
Okay. Well, just tell me about Forest Lawn and its ministries in general.
Okay, Forest Lawn is a church that's been established since 1935. And my predecessor, Pastor Bryant, was a visionary. Under his leadership, we had a farm in New Waverly where it was a senior citizens facility where they could go and retire if they chose to. And then we started Solar T Village. That was to help children that was in the CPS custody, mainly siblings, brothers and sisters.
You said CPS, you mean foster care?
Yes.
Okay.
Where they would be probably separated this group here, he kept the siblings together. So after that, we've had a homeless veterans facility where we house. This was the first of its kind, where we house female homeless veterans.
Wow, I've not
You
heard
know.
of that before.
Yeah. That was the first. It was
Yeah.
one of the kind of mainline facilities for females. You don't often hear about females. You often hear
Never,
about
never.
men,
Yeah.
but you never hear about females. So we did that. Our contract with the VA expired, and so now we're just trying to house people who are homeless and people who do not have a place to stay. We have a facility there where they could come and, for a little bit, they could stay there.
When you
if they
say
don't have a-
facilities, what do you mean?
apartment complex.
Apartment complex? How many do you
Yes.
have? when you run?
Well, we have 25 rooms,
25 rooms.
26 rooms that are available for people to come and live if they don't have a place to.
Now, do you have like what you call wraparound services, social services, medical?
Yeah, we
that kind
have,
of
we
stuff?
have, we had social services when we had the VA project. We had people come in, medical doctors and things of that nature, but we do not have that now.
Okay.
We just have about 5 people there now,
Okay.
so there's not really a great need for it right
Right.
now. But as we grow, well, we'll have that. I'm trying to lunch out with one of persons who was running for office. He's in the medical field.
Okay. Do you want to mention his name? It's
all
all right.
Mr. Javad.
Okay.
He was running for office. We've talked
Uh-huh.
and we've had plans to kind of provide a health care facility on our campus.
Really? Tell me more
So-
about that.
So, well, we initially, he was running for office. He started a facility, a healthcare facility over in the Galena Park area.
Okay.
That's on the east side. And so he's got that up running. And when he came to, present himself as a politician, and I was asking him what did he do, he mentioned the fact that he was in the medical field
Okay.
where he's do clinics. And so I'm in a community where we
clinics.
need
Need a clinic.
a clinic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I asked him, would he be willing to, start or provide the necessary means to start a clinic on the north side? And he agreed to do that. So we're in plans of continuing to talk to him, see if we can make that come to fruition.
Okay. Well, if he doesn't get elected and that doesn't happen, you still can do a clinic.
That's right. that
other
was
folks-
because he may run again.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is the first time he
Yeah.
was running, so obviously he wasn't very known,
Yeah.
and so now he worked with us in the community, get a little track record,
Yeah.
and maybe the next time.
When he built that
Right.
clinic,
That's
they'd be
right.
ready to- yeah, you gotta
That's
build that
right.
clinic first,
That's
you know,
right.
People that
So
track record,
that's
you know?
right. You have something,
But no, that's
track
fine.
record.
That's very important. One of the organizations I work with in Winston-Salem, the Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, they are very concerned, and it's a big concern with us too, what's called chronic diseases.
Right.
Diabetes,
Right.
even AIDS now is a chronic
Right,
disease,
right,
and so
right.
forth.
Right.
And folks often don't have transportation to be going down to the medical center
Right.
or to Sugar Land
Right.
or some of the big hospitals. They need something right there in their community.
Right.
And so what we tried to do is develop partnerships at that time with what's called bivocational pastors.
Right,
You know,
right.
We had, right there, and then the hospital would send a volunteer doctor once a month, twice a month, just so
Right.
folks know where they can go to get their diabetes checked and their blood and,
right.
and their medicines and even dialysis. They even thought
Right,
about that kind of thing.
right.
So that's a critical aspect.
Right.
So I think it would really be important to really think about that and to think about some of the hospitals, you know,
In the area.
you know, in the area, you know, who don't have these emergency. You know, you go to Pearland and all these places. You got almost every block now. There's an emergency
care.
center.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Two
Go
or
to
three.
two or
Right.
three of them.
None in
Yeah,
our
none in our
community.
community.
Right,
That's an
absolutely.
equity issue.
Right, right.
You know,
right.
that's an equity issue.
Right.
And one of our conferences is about health equity.
Okay.
Right.
You know, is that because the fact is, folks living in River Oaks and Pearland and those like that, they'll live 25 years longer than the folks living in your community.
Absolutely.
That's right.
You know,
Absolutely.
because that's why we build funeral homes in our
Right,
community.
right, right, right.
you,
4 or
you
5.
find you'll
yes.
find them. You
Right.
find
Exactly.
funeral, but you won't find a health clinic.
Right.
Right.
You know,
right.
so I really think that's part of what we want to do in faith and health. I really think having health clinics, you know, I mean, clinics, you know, healthcare is only a part of it, but access to healthcare, especially for chronic disease management, is critical.
Right.
And so I say to y'all, build it.
Right, right, right.
It won't take that much.
Right,
You know, you
right.
can start. You make a partnership with Houston Methodist or MD Anderson or Herman or any one of them. You go to them and say, you know, we got this problem because they got what they call hot spotting.
Right.
They know where the sick people are.
Right.
And they know
Absolutely.
they're in your community.
Right,
And
right.
it's costing them big money.
Right.
Every time you have another episode, you got to go to the emergency room. You know, that's $10,000-$15,000 a clip.
Right.
You know, and so they got to send an ambulance down there. They got to transport you and put you in this. And if you had something right there in your own community,
Right.
Right.
that you can manage your disease and so forth,
Right.
that saves them big money. See, that's what
Absolutely.
I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
You know, that's
Right.
what I'm talking about. Is that we need to begin to think that
Think,
way.
right,
You
right,
know,
right.
Is that when you find the Harvard relief you did, the research
Right.
you did, you're not only helping those people, you're helping the system.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
providing food and providing care for
Right.
them in their community, that means that they're not having these episodes that run to the emergency room or their chronic disease goes on and on and on.
Right.
You know, because used to be hospitals didn't care about that.
Right.
You get sick, you go, they get paid no matter how many times you come.
Right.
Right.
That ain't the
Right.
case anymore.
Right.
Right.
You know what
Right.
it's called? They call value-based
Right.
health care and global budgeting that they have
Right.
now. These are terms that we need to know about.
Right. Right.
You know,
right.
because when you do services in your community, like a health clinic,
Right.
for you don't have to be, you know, anything fancy.
There you go.
Just have a doctor, and usually they're doctors who will
Right.
volunteer.
Right.
2 days a week,
Right.
you know, or
Right.
2 days a month. To come to you and all they do is take blood pressures, administer insulin, write prescriptions.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so that folks can get what they need to manage their illness, so they don't have all these episodes.
Right.
Right. And one other point, most of the people in our community right now are over the age of 80.
Yeah, yeah.
80% of our membership.
Yes,
Right.
uh-huh.
So they
Right.
can't afford to go
That's right.
downtown. They
That's right.
can't afford to go
That's right.
To the
these
medical
clinics,
center.
medical
That's right.
center.
But your church is right there.
Right. Exactly.
And you have facilities right,
Right
there.
there.
Exactly.
And you have
Right.
people who trust you right, there.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and so why should they go someplace else? They should go to their
Right.
church
And
get
when
what
we
they
could
need.
bring it to the community
Yeah.
as
Right.
a service.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And they
I
got these
think.
vans, you know,
Right.
that can
Right.
come out and sit in
Right.
your parking lot.
Right.
Right.
You know, do all you need to do. So we like for you, you know, for that's what we want. That's what this faith and health thing is about.
Okay.
You know, it's to bring it together. You know, like that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So tell me more about what's happening. Tell me more about your community.
Okay. Well, my community is one of the, I guess the medium income.
Mm-hmm.
The medium income in my neighborhood is about $31,000.
That's poverty level.
That's poverty level.
Yeah.
And the average household income is maybe $41,000.
That's not much better,
So
especially
that's
the number
not
of people in
much
the household.
better. Absolutely.
So that's probably still poverty
So
level, yeah.
they cannot afford.
Mm-hmm.
Some cannot even afford health care.
Right.
They cannot afford insurance.
Right.
On their job, you know, they trying to decide whether I get insurance or do I need the money.
Right.
Right.
You know, they making
Right.
choices, and then
Yeah.
if they don't have insurances, they can't be seen at a local hospital, or they have to go to the public hospital and they have to wait all day. But
Yeah.
if we
Right.
could bring clinics in with no restrictions, people can come and be seen.
Yeah. That's one thing I think that's pretty important to think about it. And I want to, if you come to the conference, I want you to make contact with the folks in the Harris County Public Health.
Right.
and folks from the hospitals will be there, Houston
Right,
Methodist will be
right,
there,
right.
and talk to them,
Right.
and tell them what your situation is,
right.
because they need you as much as you need them.
Right,
Exactly.
right. We
That's-
need each
we
other.
need each other.
Right.
The
That's
song say,
exactly
"I
what
need you, you need me.
need
We
each
all
other.
a part."
And that's why we got to
Right.
come together,
Yes.
and talk to one another
Right.
about these kind of
Right.
things. But healthcare only covers really about 20% of our health.
Right.
Maybe 20% has to do with our lifestyle choices and our genetics, maybe. Other 60% has to do with where you live, has to do with your housing stock. Is there
Right.
mold in the walls of your house? Is there still asbestos in there? Is it cold in the winter and hot in the summer?
Absolutely.
That's what makes
Right.
people sick.
Right, right.
Exactly.
It's substandard housing, and so that'll be critical. But the other thing is talking about health insurance. This is one of the few states where there's no Medicaid expansion. There's millions of dollars sitting there to cover those sick people, and people are dying because some folks up in Austin, have some
Right.
kind of budget thing that they're trying to keep doing,
Right.
or they don't like the president or whoever
Right.
it is, and so that people are dying
Exactly.
in our communities.
Right.
And so it's critical, for churches like yours to be aware of these things
Right.
and to know that you have power.
Right.
You need to speak to your
Right.
elected officials.
Right.
And say, these decisions that you're making, they may sound good, for news bites, and it might sound
Right.
good to your constituency who live out in Bodog somewhere. I love folks in Bodog somewhere, but they don't, they're not where you are
That's
and
right.
not seeing
Right.
what you see.
Right, right.
And so
Right.
it's important not only, for you to have clinics,
Right.
and provide health care, but also have a voice,
Right.
Right.
to speak for those
Right,
folks. Because
right.
nobody's going to speak for them if you don't speak for
Right.
them.
Exactly.
Right.
And so the church, us,
Right.
those of us who have the ability to speak to God, who's given the gift to speak, need to stand up and be counted for the folks who can't be counted for themselves. There's no excuse for them not having health insurance.
Right.
In fact, there's no excuse for folks dying because they don't got money.
Right.
We are all created in the image of God. We
Right.
all are worth something.
Right.
That's right.
Your life is worth just as much as the richest person's life.
Right.
And just because you don't have money or you not, because they've decided because they don't need it to
Right.
expand Medicaid, then your folks die.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
That ain't right. That just
Right.
ain't right.
Right.
Now, the Lord
not.
ain't pleased.
Right.
The
Right.
Lord's not pleased.
Right.
No.
So that's a critical issue too.
And we had teamed with a doctor in the past. He's passed on, but we did team with a doctor in the past on Fridays, every Friday, or every other Friday. The doctor would come over, do blood pressure check for diabetes, that type of thing, and he had a team of people with him to help him, assist him. We used to do that. He would write prescriptions. You remember when
Oh,
we
yes.
had that
Right.
program?
Oh, yes.
But he passed on.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we hadn't been able to do anything like that again till I talked to Mr. Javard.
Yeah.
And we are going to pursue that, and he seems to be open to want to bring a clinic to our community.
let's
so
work
we're
on that.
going to
Let's
work
make it-
on it.
let's make that
And then
happen.
when I heard about the conference,
Yeah.
Brother Sutton brought it to my attention. I made it my priority to kind of just go to see,
Yeah.
just to see who we could network
Well,
with.
the whole purpose of the conference is networking.
Okay.
I want to make that perfectly clear. The conference is not for you to go and learn a lot of new stuff and get
Right.
some PowerPoint presentations
Right.
and go home and do nothing
Right,
with it.
right, right, right.
That's not the
Well,
purpose.
that's-
The purpose is to meet other people in the same situation you is and folks who can help you.
Right.
Because
right,
it's a two-way street.
Right.
Exactly.
Because you're helping them when they help
Right.
you.
Absolutely.
And that's why we got to make those kinds of connections.
Okay.
And so I'd like you to come and bring a team of folks
Right.
and just go out and meet folks. Tell them what
Right.
you're trying to do. Tell them you want to start a clinic. I
Right.
bet you if you come there and say you want to start a clinic, somebody there will be saying, okay, well, let's do it.
Okay.
Right.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you that will happen.
right.
And if you don't, come see me and I'll take you
Right.
to somebody.
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
Well,
But it can happen. It can happen,
Right.
because it's important.
Right.
Let me just cover another thing is, so we have, we have the health clinic, but also one of the big issues, especially in the community, like I think you described to me, is the lack of fresh food.
Right.
fruits and vegetables. Do you have a supermarket located there in your community?
Not major
No.
supermarkets.
No, I'm talking about. I'm talking
You
about.
know, we
I'm talking
don't
about
have a
H-E-B. I'm talking about
Randall's,
H-E-B.
we don't have
a Randall's, a
H-E-B's,
Kroger's. That's
no.
what I'm talking about.
No, we don't have
Yeah.
a Kroger's or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Fiesta is about the closest
Fiesta,
thing,
yeah.
and you know, Fiesta.
Yeah. Well, that's
I'm
a good
yeah,
store.
It's a
That's
good store.
yeah.
It's a
I
good
like
store.
Fiesta,
Yeah. But it's kind of on the outskirts of our community.
Well, see, that's another
Right.
thing. That's another that we need to be thinking about is our food system.
Right.
One thing is, if you got any land at all, you can grow your own fruits and
Right,
vegetables.
right,
Do
absolutely.
urban gardening,
Right.
and there's some places, where they start urban gardens and they find they get kids to do it and give them jobs selling,
Right, right.
or making money. So it'll be another way.
Right.
So it can impact the economy, but also provide fresh food, for the people in your community. That helps, as a
Right.
big deal as well.
Right.
So housing, this is what's called social determinants of health.
Right.
Housing, food, that kind of thing. But also it's a criminal justice system.
Right, right, absolutely.
Carrying our young men and our
because
women
we
off to
have-
jail.
That's right. We
you know.
have a lot of that in my community.
Exactly,
Right.
voting and
Right.
not able to vote, or, they can't get a job, can't no place that they can live. So how they going? So what kind of help they gonna have?
Right.
What their children gonna be like?
Right.
You know.
That's right.
So that's another thing. We need to be working with the police, with the criminal justice system. But again, with your elected officials.
Right.
Begin
Right.
to address those kinds of issues, because those are another thing that impacts the health and why our people stay sick.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me, what do you think about all this stuff that I've been talking about?
Well, I think it's very important, especially in the African American community. I don't know about a lot of other communities
No,
because
that's
I don't
okay.
live there, but I work in a predominantly poor, economically depraved, with all of these issues. You name it, diabetes, high blood pressure, just obesity, just all of the things that you've mentioned. And that kind of was making me curious about this conference,
Right.
because, when you say health conference, you sometimes
It's not a health fair.
conferences, it's not,
it's not a health fair.
Yeah, not
it's
in-
not a conference. Just give information. This is
Right.
This is to connect folks who want to get something done.
Right.
There are folks who've done this before
Right,
from all over the
Okay.
country who will be
Right.
here. So you can talk to folks who've done what you're trying to do.
right,
Right.
And there are
right.
other folks, like you said. Now, the other thing that's critical important is we want to build collaborations. You can't do this alone. One
Right.
church
No,
can't
no.
do it alone.
No.
So if you have, I don't know if you have a ministerial alliance in your community.
Absolutely,
You know,
we
and so
do.
forth. Well, that's who you be working
Right,
with. They
right.
should be at this conference.
Right.
And should be a team of them there figuring out how can we work together to bring a supermarket to our conference.
Right.
So I bet you get a dozen pastors and their people together.
Right.
Get an appointment with the folks at H-E-B or Kroger's or to one of those places and say, well, how come y'all don't have one here? Even if you have to start, what they call places where a cooperative.
Right,
Right. Help
right,
us start our own
right,
cooperative.
right.
If they do their market research and stuff and say, it won't profit us. Well, okay. You have to invest a certain amount of money back into your community anyway. You do that anyway. Help us start our own cooperative. We'll start our own supermarket.
right, right.
And we'll own it. In fact, there's some hospitals in some places, because they know how important it is, that they will start a supermarket.
Wow.
Right.
Because you getting fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and the right food keeps you healthy and out of the hospitals in the most expensive places.
Right.
So it builds, and so that's a new thinking now. People didn't used to think like that.
Right.
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 But one of the things you're gonna learn in this conference is that things are changing. The world is changing.
Right.
All right.
And it's a whole different paradigm that's beginning to take place now. And the faith community needs to be on the leading edge of it,
Right.
Absolutely.
especially the folks in communities like what you're talking about.
Right.
Because
Right.
those are the communities that are in the most need.
Right.
Right.
And believe it or not, those communities that's costing other folks the most money.
Exactly.
Right.
I
I believe that.
and so,
Right.
but you're there in that community.
Right.
You know, you have the people coming, you have the trust. You may not have a whole lot of folks. It don't matter how many folks you got on your pews. I mean, I've
Right.
never been to your church, so I
Right.
don't know what you
Right.
got on your pews.
Right.
But it don't matter.
Right.
Because
Right.
you're people of God.
Right.
Right.
And God ain't
Right.
never counted the number of folks on
Right.
your pews
Right.
to get anything done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Show me anywhere in the Bible where God
Right.
was counting how many folks you got
Right.
in order to do what God has called
Right.
you to do.
Right.
In fact, He said you got
fact,
too many
that's
folks.
right.
Yeah.
And many times, often, God always took little and made
It
much.
made much.
Right.
You got these
So-
churches with 14,000, 40,000, 20,000 folks that ain't doing nothing.
Right. Right.
You know,
Well,
because
we say I tell people we may not be mega, but we want to be major.
There
We
you
want to
go.
make an impact,
there you go.
and we want
There you
to
go.
help our community.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
And I believe you. I'm sure you already are helping your
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you already
Yeah.
are helping your
Yeah,
community.
but we want to do it on a more consistent
basis.
basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that one of the ways to do that and to make sure you
Right.
do that is you do it together.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, God has never called anybody to do things alone. Even if He called a prophet, He had a
Right.
prophet helper with
That's
him.
right.
Right.
Right. That's right. Absolutely.
You always had two witnesses.
That's
you know.
right.
Right.
And when you want to get something done, you know, in this time of days, we need to do it together.
Right.
That's right.
You know,
Absolutely.
white, black. I'm not just talking about just black folks, white folks, Hispanics.
Right.
We need to work with the Hispanic population.
Right. Right.
Because many of them in the same boat that we
Right.
in.
Right.
Well, our community is being
Yeah.
changed
Yeah.
or transformed because more Hispanics are moving in.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we
And
need to-
but that's a critical issue. You know, we need to work. We need to work together.
together.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
know, because folks will want to pit us against one another.
right.
Right.
and we do. I had a Hispanic church
Uh-huh.
within our walls. You
Right.
know, they worship right after we did. We partnered together, and we was working on some things, but they got another space now.
Yeah.
But at least we are trying.
But you had that partnership, you
Right,
know.
right.
Right.
I think that's for Houston, that's going to be the most critical things.
It is.
We're the most diverse city in the country. So what does that mean? You know, we can be diverse in all our different sections of
Right.
town.
Right.
You know, but what does it mean for whites and blacks and Asians
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
and
Right.
Africans
Right.
Well,
and
like-
African Americans to work together?
Right.
You know,
Well, during the Harvey deal, we helped a lot of, we didn't make any discrimination
Yeah.
between races. We had Asians to come, we had Hispanics.
Yeah.
We served them all.
Right.
They came by because they felt welcome.
I just wonder why we had to wait for Harvey.
I know, but sometimes the
But
Lord has to work.
disaster- Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right.
Right.
The Lord
That's right.
sometimes works
You're right.
things
Exactly
through disasters to bring
Right.
us
You're
together.
Right.
exactly right.
Right.
You're exactly right.
that-
You know, in fact,
yeah.
I said that myself. You know,
Right.
we talk about the name of this is the beloved community of hell. That's the only time I saw the beloved community was after Harvey.
Exactly.
So we're finished. We're wrapping up the show. It's been so great having you here. I really
Wow.
enjoyed our conversation together.
All right.
Same here.
You know, and I know you're going to do great things out there. You know,
Right.
before it's long.
Well, we're
Right.
going to be praying for you, and you
Right.
certainly pray for us.
Right.
And we certainly will be attending the
Yeah.
health, faith and health conference.
Okay. Well, thank you
Because
very
we
much.
want to network with
Yeah.
some people.
There
Right,
you go.
exactly.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Right?
I think that's a wrap.